welcome to the Spirit Lounge again. Hope you guys are doing really well. It's been an interesting day. I was going to actually do this video later in the weekend, but I thought I needed a dose of good grace around me today. Bit of reality and real life plugged in before we start. Sometimes you meet people. My life's usually filled with beautiful experiences actually, and gifted grace in my life all the time. And there are reasons for that, and the background to all of those things actually are in the videos of this channel. And where those channels come from is the all itself. And when you allow that in, and you follow the intention and purpose of the lifetime that you're living, things are actually laid out in front of you and become easier or easy because the universe lays out these things for you. And sometimes that's why some people have easier lives and others don't. That's for another video, I guess. But I'm a strong, in fact I know, not a believer, I know that if the further away you stray away from the purpose for which you came, and that you exist in the life that you exist in as of the now, and stray away from the connection to the divine, the harder your life or the experience of it will appear to you. The closer you get to that intention and the closer to the divine source of yourself, the easier life will be perceived and lived, and the blessings that you see around will come to you. You don't need to seek them. It includes people, signs, syncreties, people, places and events, numbers and symbols. But today I met someone of excessive ego, which when you have those as experiences that don't often come, because I don't have those, I don't actually experience those, or they come across those people, they never enter my space, because the frequency that you exhibit and vibration you live doesn't allow those in actually. And when they do come in, they don't reflect that on you. But I did today. It's astonishing actually, the level of ego and narcissism, rudeness and sense of self, that the superiority sense of self this person had. And I thought, well, you know, the only way to get around that is put some grace back in. So I decided to bring this video ahead early. Actually, and to contrast that, yesterday I met the most beautiful soul who was doing the most humblest of jobs, but was the most happiest person I'd met, and that blessed everyone with a blessed day that he met. So beauty exists everywhere, really. We have to avoid those that don't exhibit the grace that we are seeking the world to be. So today is going to be much shorter than the other videos, rest assured. So today we're going to go over the Gospel of Thomas, the Greek Gospel of Thomas. Now they're very much the same. The difference between the Greek Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Thomas is some translations, but the sayings are the same, the contents are the same in both. So the bulk of what you're going to read, in fact overwhelming 95%, 96.7% is going to be the Gospel of Thomas as it's derived. So let me just share the screen and the PowerPoint presentation with you now, and you'll see my photograph in the top corner for your viewing pleasure or not. Okay, so let me open that on my desktop now. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to make sure that's appearing okay on my stream that I'm checking, because sometimes it doesn't always appear as it should do on YouTube and Facebook. It seems to be appearing. Okay, well, if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's not such a big deal. Okay, so the Gospel of Thomas and the Greek Gospel of Thomas. Let's move on. So the Gospel of Thomas, it's there are 114 sayings that Jesus shared with his disciples, but were documented by Judas Thomas the Twin. Now, I don't know much about that, the twin aspect of it, but apparently the Judas Thomas twin was a spiritual twin of Jesus, or was exhibiting the attributes that those around those times gave him this name as the twin. Don't know if that's real or not. It's not for me to judge. I just read. I will tell you what the authors have documented. It's not something I follow, but you can research that if you wish. It communicates salvation and life in general. So there are 114 different parables, sayings, things that Jesus would have said, and that were documented by Judas Thomas, but also to his disciples. And it kind of depicts that in some ways, but not clear actually, but it does depict that Jesus didn't die for our sins and did not arise from the dead on the third day, although that's not clear from what I've read. I do agree with Jesus did not, or was not crucified for our sins. He did not die for our sins. He died because of the misguidedness of those at the time who thought him a threat and didn't like the teachings that were being shared amongst us, amongst the disciples and within the home, which is where it was supposed to be shared, not through religion, and was killed by those who Jesus would perceive a threat to. Jesus was crucified by the ignorance of the age and the ignorance of those around him, and those who wished to retain power and didn't like these teachings or these reminders. Jesus was there, or Yeshua was there, or Isha was there, whichever name you wish to give, was there to remind us of. So it's saying here, this is the author's description, the sayings coming from the living voice of Jesus are not what Jesus said, as much they are what Jesus continues to say. And I apologize for the incredible typos in that one. I agree with that, by the way, because it's not what was said. It was this message that was supposed to be continued and cascaded onward eternally, effectively, between us all. So it's what is continues to be said through ourselves, through the words and reminders and the lessons that were being taught to us from those teachings and sayings and parables. Okay, so what I've done, I haven't listed all 114 or detailed all 114. I'm not going to do that. If you wish to look at all 114 of them, pick up the book from any library or online source, and maybe you can go through this chapter on your own and read those 114. They are very interesting. You do need, some of them are very, very obvious. Some of them are not so much, and will require yourself to determine what they mean to you. But do remember, everything you read is a metaphor. It's telling you something that you need to contemplate and determine what the meaning is within what you're reading. None of this is to be taken in a literal sense. It needs to be contemplated to understand what the message is it's trying to say. But if we start on the foundation that everything is telling you to lead yourself to the all, which is from the internal space, the all was within all, and the all within, and all within is within the all. If we take that as a foundation to where you start from understanding the meaning of these things, then you won't go far wrong. Okay, the first one, and he said, whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death. This is also in the Greek Gospel of Thomas. This is self-explanatory. It's effectively saying if you understand the teachings and what Jesus was trying to tell us, you will not taste death. What does that mean? We all taste physical death, yes, but they're talking about the death of the spirit within our manifested material life. Tasting of death in the material life in this sentence means that we never discover our true trueness, our true nature, and therefore do not connect to the divine whilst in life, and we go along in our material ego selves and we die in that mode. When one finds who will be troubled, one will marvel and will reign over all. What this means by troubled is that when one finds, i.e. finds the divine, you are confronted with yourself. It forces a confrontation with yourself. It's a hard one because it'll force you to look at oneself in all your aspects: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and etheric. And the journey, the commitment to this journey that you are one seeking and one finds and embarks upon it is a very difficult one. So when it says you are troubled, this is what it's referring to. Jesus said, if your leaders say to you, look, the kingdom is in heaven, then the birds of heaven will precede you. If they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fish will precede you rather than the kingdom. Rather, the kingdom is inside you and is outside you. So essentially it's saying we don't look up to find grace, nor do we look down into other realms to find grace. It is not up there or down there or external from us. It's actually from within and to the without. This basically means find that grace from within and become it by externalizing it in your every action, word, thought, and intention. And this is what it means from within to without. To without also is connecting to the all, which the all is within. The all is also in the without, and to become what is within. Jesus said, know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you. For there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed. Obvious one, self-explanatory there. And the longer ones are the parables, actually. So I've pulled out a few parables. Jesus said, look, the sower went out, took handful of seeds and scattered them. Some fell on the road, and the birds came and pecked them up. Others fell on rock, and did not take the root in the soil, and did not produce heads of grain. Others fell on thorns, and they choked the seeds, and worms devoured them. And others fell on good soil, and it brought forth a good crop. It yielded 60 per measure and 120 per measure. Now that last sentence is from biblical scripture itself. What does this mean? Well, it means that the sower went out. In other words, the messenger itself was Jesus at the beginning, and the messengers are us as a whole. And all 7.x billion of us are also the sowers. And we are to go out, but not to go prophesizing and proselytizing our messages to people, but by exhibiting it from with ourselves, and those who are seeking will be attracted to you or the things that you do to help share what it is that you're learning. But these messages can fall on deaf ears and therefore will not produce any fertile crop. A fertile crop effectively means those who are listening embrace and embark upon the path to a greater realization. That greater realization is actually what transcends. There's only one thing that transcends. Of course, the Spirit will always hold everything it's ever been. Its personality, the personality always maintains. It's never destroyed. You retain this within your universal being, if you like, the one that you fall through or you bring with you in each lifetime. But the thing that truly transcends, that moves you into the realms, into greater awareness in this universe, is the movement towards grace. That is the only thing that transcends and that which comes from that movement. Everything else is an attribute of the many selves that we have in the quantum or the akasha, in the conscious field of the universe, in which you're always connected. Hence, you're always connected to every avatar you've ever been, everything you've ever been, everything you've ever said, done, thought, every action, word, thought, and intention. Okay. the next slide, Jesus said, when you see one who was not born of woman, fall on your faces and worship. That is your Father. What this effectively means is when you're connecting with the divine all, the creative force, it was not born of anything. It wasn't born of any mother or any procreative spiritual force or material force. It was, it just existed. It was just is. So what this means when you see one who was not born of woman is effectively saying that. Jesus said, I shall give you what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, what no hand has touched, what has not arisen in the human heart. Effectively, the last part of that sentence was interesting to me, and that is, if your heart isn't open to the divine, then the messages, the parables, the sayings are those that are giving you to allow your heart to open to those things, so you to embark on your own journey towards it. The disciples said to Jesus, tell us how our end will be. Jesus said, have you discovered the beginning? Then so that you are seeking the end. For the beginning is the end, will be. Blessed is the one who stands at the beginning. That one will know the end and will not taste death. So essentially, the beginning, which is the discovery of spirit, is the end, because that is the discovery of spirit. It's the one and the same thing. I suppose the challenge is to continue on that journey to discover more, the expansion, once one has decided to embark upon that path to the divine, is to continue and maintain that path to the divine. And there is a parable in the saying further in this that actually touches on that. Okay, Jesus saw some babies nursing. He said to his disciples, the nursing babies are like those who enter the kingdom. And that's true. They said to him, then shall we enter the kingdom as babies? Jesus said to them, when you make the two into one, and when you make the inner like the outer and the outer like the inner, and the upper like the lower, and that is basically the upper being the higher mind to the balanced lower vibration material desires. So it's effectively making this duality of the mind and the desire-driven chakra points of the lower is to unify that as one, to make that one. And the outer like the inner, so the internal spirit comes to the external, so within to the without, and the without to the within, to make the all part of all and become what is. And when you make male and female into the single one, these are our male and female frequencies that we all hold. We can either be dominant male or dominant female, or we can have a balance of the two. So that the male will not be male, nor the female be female, unity balanced. This is not talking about anything other than balancing the frequency vibrations of the male aspect of us and the female aspect of us. When you make eyes in place of an eye, so that means wider perception and knowing. So when you make eyes in place of an eye, is replacing the single eye material with the wider eye, all points of perception. A hand in place of a hand. This means the hand of clasping together of emotion and devotion in my interpretation of this. A foot in place of a foot, and that is to walk towards and to attain. An image in place of an image, that is replacing a misguided principle of ourselves by the presence of the all and the image of that. Then you will enter the kingdom. Oh, I like that parable. Next one, Jesus said, love your sibling like your soul. Protect that person like the pupil of your eye. Yep, the sibling is your soul actually, and the spirit is actually your source, not your sibling. Jesus said, I took my stand in the midst of the world, and in flesh I appeared to them. I found them all drunk, not alcohol, this is drunk on the material, ego selves, the distraction, the detachment, paganism of the time, if you like. And I did not find any of them thirsty, i.e. thirsty for more divine meaning. My soul ached for the children of humanity. because they are blind in their hearts and do not see. For they came into the world empty, and they also seek to depart from the world empty. But now they are drunk. When they shake off their wine, they will repent. My soul aches for the children of humanity, because they are blind in their hearts and they do not see. For they came into the world empty. I like this one, because this is this points to the timeline in the linear aspect of time, which really only exists in the material, which is the universe itself. In a time where this message needed to be cascaded in the place in the world it needed to be seeded. Because where Yeshua planted the seed of the message was where the most of this drunkenness was, where the message needed to be seeded to help dissolve. Jesus said, "A prophet is not acceptable in the prophet's own town. A doctor does not heal those who know the doctor." I like this one. It's some of them are cryptic at best. This is essentially saying that if a message is already understood and received by one, then the messenger is no longer, or the prophet bringing that message is no longer needed in that town, the town being the one, the person, the one that is also already has sought and has found. So the doctor doesn't need to heal the person who already knows the doctor. In other words, the person who already knows the messenger, knows the message, no longer needs that message, can cascade onwards that message, and no longer needs to be healed, in other words. Jesus said, "What you will hear in your ear, in the other ear proclaim from your rooftops, for no one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, nor does one put it in a hidden place. Rather, one puts it on a stand so that all who come and go will see its light." Take this for how you wish. I'm not one to be one to stand on the street corner and shouting about your belief systems. If that's how you wish to share them, and you feel powerful, strong enough to do so, then go do so. There are other mediums, but also I would suggest the universe will bring you avenues to cascade what it is you feel and what it is you channel to yourself on this journey of yours that we all have uniquely. This is not to be taken literally, not go on the rooftops and keep shouting and protestalizing what you feel. People will come to the things that you create if you feel strong enough to share that which you feel through whatever medium you wish to express it. But it's sharing here, if you have the opportunity to express it and share it with others who are open to hear it, then do so. Jesus said, "The Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and have hidden them. They have not entered, nor have they allowed those who want to enter to do so. As for you, be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves." Innocent as doves is be open and innocent to all things, but be discerning, shrewd as snakes. The previous part of this is very, 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 very important. I think that for millennia, true meaning of I suppose all scripture for me, all teachings, be they Hindu, Judaic, Buddhist, Islamic, Christian, doesn't matter, always seem to pass through gurus, rabbis, priests and popes. And they often don't want to share the true keys of that knowledge that are hidden in what they know. They just share the interpretations they want you to understand, and they also write those in the scriptures that they write. The power is also always within yourself, and this is say we do not give the power away to other scholars, rabbis, priests and popes and gurus, because that's not where it belongs. Practice whatever you need with those people for a time, but do not remain there. The all is asking you to seek the all from within yourself, That is always where the journey will be. I guarantee you this. I cannot prove it to you, but I guarantee you will learn. This will come to you if you continue, whether it's in this lifetime or another incarnation somewhere else, or in something else. This is what it awaits for you to do. Okay. Excuse me. I like this one. Jesus said, be passerby. 2 words. Very, very powerful 2 words. For me, be a passerby in the material that you're experiencing and in the material that you will continue to experience in the greater possibility of the all. Is not to become what it is that you're experiencing, not to attach to what it is that you're experiencing, not to drop into the material of what you're experiencing, but be a passerby, something you're just passing through and expanding, while expanding in towards the right direction, into the direction towards grace, while you're passing through that experience. So be a passerby in that experience, but always move towards grace whilst in it. This is what this means to me. Jesus said, you cannot enter the house of the strong and take it by force without tying the person's hands. Then you can loot the person's house. It goes back to the previous slide. You give our power away and take meaning from others rather than discerning it for yourself from within. After finding what it is that you're seeking within, then your hands will be tied, not physically, but from your perceptions, from your awareness, from your knowing, which is waiting for you to uncover it. You have divine and universal knowing within you, and it's waiting for that to be exploded, to be let out. But giving that to others, they'll tie your hands and then loot your house, which effectively means loot your perception and train you into their thoughts and close you into their own non-physical prison of being. Jesus said, grapes are not harvested from thorn bushes, nor are figs gathered from thistles, for they yield no fruit. A good person brings forth good from the storehouse being the spirit and the heart. A bad person brings forth evil things from the corrupt storehouse in the heart and says evil things. For from the abundance of the heart this person brings forth evil things. So essentially, those who attach to material, attached to the mind, attached to the ego, and are also moving their heart space towards the duality of the world, or to the ignorance of all that is, or using dark energies of the world to manifest other things for themselves, other astral beings and some demigods, then from the heart space it becomes cold. The absence of divine love, not physical love between humans, that's not divine love. That one which is divine, which is indescribable but can only be felt, it doesn't have a light, and therefore misplaced force then directs those actions, words and thoughts, which then is described as evil things. Jesus said, a person cannot mount 2 horses or bend 2 bows. A servant cannot serve 2 masters, or that servant will honor the one and offend the other. No person drinks aged wine and immediately desires to drink new wine. This, in other words, when you discover the old wine, which is the aged, beautiful wine, which is the spirit, you're not going to seek the material again, or are you? New wine is not poured into old wine is not poured into a new wineskin, or it might spoil, and old patch is not sewn onto a new garment, for there will be a tear. I think this is supposed to be a tear. So this is effectively saying that once you sought and discovered, you're not going to want new wine. You're not going to pour material and distraction into something that has already matured and aged into something more knowing. Jesus said, "Blessed are those who are alone." This means isolation or at peace. This means at peace with themselves, at peace with the inner self, at peace with the connection with the divine within. And chosen simply means that you've discovered the Spirit for yourself. Doesn't mean that you've been chosen from above. That doesn't happen. There is no God. There's no divine being. There's no all that chooses anyone over anything else. And there are no chosen people. For you will find the kingdom, that's source and the all, for you have come from it and you will return there again. In fact, everything returns to the all. It just depends on what state they've emanated in the life that they've lived, which will determine things about incarnational cycles. Let's just put it that way. You come into life wrapped around people that you've had, your vibration is very similar to, and your tendencies are aligned to, and those you've drawn yourself to spiritually in previous lives. You'll probably be guided towards and drawn towards those again, should you not expand through each incarnational experience. And you could draw yourself into incarnational cycles, and you do draw yourself into them. They're never imposed upon you, through your own volition, really. And for me, that is really what hell is. Is why would you want to come into a realm of abstract, brutal duality, from a state of infinite knowing, which you are, a droplet into water, you become water. And then knowing that you're going to entering a life again through a cycle of incarnation you impose upon yourself, isn't that hell? To repeat the same negativity that you have before, and the same ignorance, just the same lack of awareness, and just to repeat that, or to come into a world where that is imposed on the many, because they're given the power away to those who wish domination and power. That for me is actually hell. There is no fiery down below. The hell is the one that we keep coming to, or creating. Jesus said, "If they say to you, 'Where have you come from?' say to them, 'We have come from the light,'" energy, which is energy is information, knowing and presence, but everything actually is pure energy at its base form. "From the place where the light came into being by itself and appeared in their image, chosen of the living Father. If they ask you, 'What is the evidence of your Father in you?' say to them, 'It is motion and rest.'" In other words, reconnection. You've come to rest you've allowed fullness to enter, which is rest. Motion being the continual expansion, the motion of the Spirit within you, and exhibiting externally in action, words, thoughts, and intentions. His disciples said to him, this one I found interesting, and I actually have said this before, and someone was upset when I said this many years ago, but it was in this stock. It was stated as a saying: "Is circumcision useful or not?" He said to them. "If it were useful, children's fathers would produce them already circumcised from their mothers. Rather, the true circumcision is in spirit has become valuable in every respect." Absolutely. I'm not going to say anything about circumcision. It's your own choice if that's what you want to do to your children. Rather, the circumcision here is really you're cutting away, you're circumcising yourself from the Spirit. And that is in every respect. The sentence speaks for itself. Jesus said, "Whoever has come to know the world has discovered a carcass. And whoever has discovered a carcass, of that person the world is not worthy." Absolutely. As you traverse life and you are on this expansive journey, you move more and more, and you become more and more of grace. Truly from within. Not through scripture or not through other mechanism. Through yourself. And you do that powerfully and you become this. Silently but powerfully. You realize the world is a shell. You realize the experience and everything around you is a carcass of sometimes emptiness, because you don't see the spirit in much. And that you see that this isn't your home. What this means, not world is not worthy, it means this is not your home. Your spirit is elevated way beyond this. The frequency of which you truly are is not this. This is the playground which all manifests and experiences itself. And so it is an empty shell. And because you expand beyond that shell, and therefore the world is not worthy to hold the divine spirit because it's expanded beyond it. Jesus said, look at the living one as long as you live, or you might die and try to see the living one, and you will be unable to see. This is saying the same thing when you might die, which effectively means detachment. You don't know physical death. It means the death by circumcising yourself or stripping your way yourself or detaching yourself away from the divine. And therefore, when you do that, you become detached, you become material. When you become abstracted material, you may look around yourself and try to find that thing that you've detached yourself from. And because you've done so, you've lost the vision, the sight, the knowing. Therefore, you're not going to be able to see that which you've already lost or you've detached from. And your journey for you then restarts for you to rediscover what it is that one has left behind. Jesus said, I disclose my mysteries. No, not really mysteries. Mysteries are, it's the book of knowledge. It's the book of, it's the infinite book within. It's the one that opens up in its pages, flick over and are turning. And that's the energetic book within. That's the divine book that the divine gave you as part of your infinite spirit. And all knowledge, all knowing of all that is out there exists in the spirit. You can never uncover all that is. Neither can you know what the all is in form. It's not possible. It's unfathomable. And it's incredible to even think that one can. But you're not here to be doing that. You're here to understand sufficiently enough that this carcass and shell no longer serves purpose. So dying is actually removing yourself from that whilst in form. And to live is to rediscover it. And so those are the mysteries. To those who are worthy are ye seeking. Do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. This goes back to the previous interpretations of left and right. Left being the physical, the attachment to the physical, and right being the spiritual, and in between the psychical self hovering between the two, going from left to right depending on the leaning of the psychical self. Okay, he said, the usurer owned a... Oh, this is a good parable. I like this one. The usurer owned a vineyard and rented it to some farmers so that they might work and he might collect its produce from them. He sent his servants so that the farmers might collect its produce, so he might collect its produce from them. He sent his servants so that the farmers might give the servant the produce of the vineyard. They seized, beat, and almost killed his servant. And the servant returned and told his master. His master said, perhaps he did not know them, effectively know him. He sent another servant, and the farmers beat that one as well. Then the master sent his son and said, perhaps they will show my son some respect, since the farmers knew that he was the heir to the vineyard. They seized him and killed him. Whoever has ears should hear. It's really the last sentence. Whoever has ears should hear. This parable is effectively saying that the father of the son and the master of the servants was unable to see, to understand, to know what was happening, what was true, as he kept sending people, servants, and therefore his son, to a fateful end. He was unable to hear, he was unable to see, he was unable to perceive what was happening because he was blocked off from understanding and awareness. And at the end it says, whoever has ears should hear. So in other words, if you're ready to hear, if you're ready to receive, you shall receive. If you're ready to understand, you shall be given knowing. If you're ready to become aware and share, you shall be sharing and channeling divine intelligence. But obviously in this story, the person wasn't. Jesus said, one who knows everything but lacks in oneself lacks everything. Absolutely. We are ego mind centric, thinks we know everything. The world is full of these people right now. Unfortunately, we're giving our power to them. We need to take our power back from them. The ego mind self is narcissistic and intellectual and will lead us to distraction, blindness, and more ignorance. It's the self, to know oneself, which will give true perception and knowledge and allow you to see this world for what it is and what truly is occurring around you, to make divinely guided choices and decisions. If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, what you do not have within you will kill you. Again, this is not physical death. This is the death of the divine self that is waiting to, the spark that is waiting to become a flame and a fire. Jesus said, the Father's kingdom is like a merchant who had a supply of merchandise and then found a pearl. That merchant was prudent. He sold the merchandise and bought the single pearl for himself. So also with you, seek his treasure that is unfailing, that is enduring, where no moth come forth to devour and no worm destroy. Don't need to explain that one. It's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, the next one. A woman in a crowd, another parable. And a woman in a crowd said to him, Blessed is a womb that bore you, and the breast that fed you. He said to her, Blessed are they who have heard the word of the Father and have truly kept it. Again, continuing on that purpose and that journey once it's discovered is to continue and persist in that expansion. For there will be days when you will say, Blessed is the womb that has not conceived and the breast that have not given milk. So this is essentially saying there are days where we'll be distracted and where we'll stray from what we're trying to become. And therefore we will not have a womb. We will not receive what the womb was conceived and the milk that the breast will give. In other words, knowledge, truth, Jesus' teachings, or the things that we're discovering from connection to our divine spirit. Jesus said, whoever is near me, not him, he's talking about the Christ consciousness that is within us all, that he's asking us to connect to, is near the fire. The fire is the fire of the Spirit. And whoever is far from me is far from the kingdom. Jesus said, when you see your likeness, you are happy. Your likeness is the eternal Spirit. The likeness is the Spirit, which is the likeness of the all. Remember, this is not physical and not literal and is metaphorical, always for the divine. Always. But when you see your images that came into being, your images, what this is our material images. This is talking to us when we see our material images into being before you, and that neither dies nor become visible. So what this is saying is when we see our images that we create for ourselves, our ego images, our narcissistic and material self, or self-adorning images, we attach to those before you, i.e. before us, in our mirror, in our material existence. And that neither dies nor becomes invisible, that's supposed to say, how much you will bear. So very saying, if we don't remove these physical and material images of ourselves, and we don't see the true likeness, then we will bear much heaviness, much loss, much detachment, much struggle, and also misguided perceptions. Jesus said, "Why do you wash the outside of the cup? Don't you understand that the one who made the inside is also the one who made the outside?" From within to without, from without to within. This is what this is saying in short. "Do not give what is holy to dogs, or they might throw them upon the manure pile. Do not throw pearls to swine, or they might make mud of it." For me, this is effectively saying that if a person isn't ready to hear what we discuss on this channel and what I'm walking through on the Nag Hammadi Scriptures, on the many videos that will come out of this book, then there's no need for those words to be shared with them. If those are ready, they will come. If those are ready, they will stay. If those are ready, they will stop and listen. There's no point in throwing it onto those who are not ready, because it will just be thrown away on a heap on the floor and ignored. Hence this pile of mud and swine and manure pile. I won't think others who are not ready as dogs, though, just so you know. Okay, and Jesus said, "The Father's kingdom is like a person who wanted to put someone powerful to death. While at home, he drew his sword and thrust it into the wall to find out whether his hand would go in. Then he killed the powerful one." For me, this is the Father's kingdom is like a person who wanted to put someone powerful to death. This is talking about what we do in our material selves in this universe, which we're always looking, or the universe is steered, or at least our human experiences is steered for us to move us away from knowing our origin, knowing our divine all, knowing and connecting with our divine spirit. So it's almost like we're trying to put someone powerful to death. That powerful is to detach from the divine spirit. And he drew his sword and thrust it into the wall. And this is the wall between the material, the ego self, and the spirit, to kill off that and to move towards the ego. Jesus said, "Woe to the flesh that depends on the soul, woe to the soul that depends on the flesh." This is a good one. It's the body. If we're identifying with the body, both of this is identifying with the body and also identifying the soul, but and also attaching it to the body as being the unifying aspect of us towards expansion. Actually, the body has no unifying aspect at all. The Trinity, as we know, is our heart, our spirit, our mind. The body is merely the vessel. Okay, now we move on to the Greek Gospel of Thomas. This is just a single slide. It's all of these that I'm going to go through were in the Gospel of Thomas. So I'm not really sure what the Greek part of it really has much difference, other than some interpretations or translations were slightly different, but not of any significance at all. And he said, "Whoever finds the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death again." This was also in the previous first slide. Jesus said, "Let one who seeks not stop seeking until one finds. When one finds, one will be astonished, and having been astonished, one will reign, and have reigned, one will rest," i.e. be smothered in fullness. Jesus says, "If you do not fast from the world, you will not find God's kingdom." Fast from the world is detach from the material. And if you do not observe the Sabbath is meaning to observe, take time in life to observe. It doesn't have to be a Saturday or any particular day. It has to be a continual aspect of life every day. It's to take time to observe the all within the self and reconnect to it through silence and a moment of peace to the all from without. And you will not see the Father. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there. Split the piece of wood, and I am there. The all is in all things. Jesus says, "Often you have desired to hear these sayings of mine, and you have no one else from whom to hear them. And there will come days when you will seek me, and you will not find me." Same to the previous statement. These sayings are there for us to discover, to help us. But there are times where when we find detachment in our world, we'll impose the material on us. And we will seek enlightenment or expansion out there when it's actually really within, and we will not find it. Because we've lost a connection with the sayings and their true meaning, which is asking us to find our church. The church is within, remember. Okay, thank you so much again. And obviously this Mahanji, which is effectively asking us to become, and not just practice, but become. Otherwise we are just performing activity to satisfy our virtuous and self-righteousness selves, which is not really going to get us anywhere. But become. Everything that you practice, exhibit it in every action, word, thought and intention. This is what everything we've gone through in the Nag Hammadi Scriptures has been telling you so far. The same message, just communicated differently in every piece of text thus far, and I guarantee you as we go through the next 600 pages of this book, the message will be the same. So thank you again for listening. And I'll just pop this back on the camera, on the webcam. Yeah, thank you for listening again, and I hope you enjoyed it. I will have the next one for the next chapter, which I think is getting more interesting now. This one was good, but the next one's getting a little bit juicy. So I hope you enjoy it, and take care of yourselves. Remember to recognize the grace in people when you experience it. There's a lot of beauty out there and a lot of things that will warm your heart and put skip in your step. Take your power back, sovereignty, liberty, and free will of the self, of your world, and of your experience, and make divinely guided choices, and not any through fear or manipulation from those who wish governance over you. Thank you, take care, and God bless.